So, welcome everyone to this conversational thread and exploration of the the ancestral lands of southern Spain and the Vision Quest ceremony that we offer over there. And for those of you that are seeing this recorded that were with us live, you will notice that it is not the same. We we had forgotten to hit the record button last time. So Neil and I have gotten together again this morning on this uh, day after winter solstice to do a do-over and send this out to you all. So I hope you enjoy. And I also want to send you all a blessing, a winter solstice blessing on this day of new light, and may the threshold crossing from the darkness to the light have been one of rest and renewal and re-envisioning and for the road ahead. All the winter solstice celebrations that occurred over the weekend. So we join you now. I am, for those that don't know me, I'm Kedar Brown with Rites of Passage Council, and with my dear friend Neil with Rewilding Bushcraft. He's our host in southern Spain, his land there, and his great depth of wisdom and knowledge and of the land and the history there, where we go for our quest. And so I wanted to begin with a an invocation. So I like to do an invocation at the beginning so that what speaks through us gives us something more useful to deliver to you than what we can come up with by ourselves. So, welcome, Neil. I want to invite you to wrap some words around this as we begin and before we do the invocation. So, welcome, Neil.
Thank you, Kada. It's lovely to be back here um, around the little fire behind
Yes.
me, and yeah, I will echo your good wishes and blessings for everybody from the solstice time, from that quiet time of drawing in, and the standing still of the sun, and the hope of the returning light, and it's a beautiful time of year. Certainly not a sad time of year, and um, and it's wonderful to have this conversation about those things that will bring a lot of light into people's life, undertaking something like a vision quest. And these threshold moments of the year are often moments when a calling will come to a person. They'll feel that longing inside them. They'll feel that voice, that something that moves to say, hey, what can I do? And sometimes they end up sitting around a fire here, sitting on a mountain behind my shoulder with you and with me, looking for that deeper light. So it's going to be an interesting conversation between us, just exploring the relationship between the land, the quest, how we got to know each other. But as you say, it's beautiful if we call in the ancestors and the spirits, and also put out there in your beautiful words, Kada, some invocations um, and some intentions for this and for the people who are listening.
Thank you, Neil. So I invite all of you out there listening, watching, to close your eyes and send your spirit to your favorite place in nature. And send yourself there at a time when the sun is rising. So you turn and face the rising sun. And so in this place, we acknowledge and we call in the good medicine people of the East, that place of the rising sun, that place of springtime and new beginnings, that place where we have let go of all those old stories that have defined ourselves and those close to us. And we've opened ourselves to curiosity, to imagination, to wonderment, We call upon all the good medicine people of the East to circle into this conversation, to awaken within each one of us that bone memory where you live as well. With much gratitude, welcome, good medicine people of the East. Ashe. And then quarter turn, we turn to the south. Those of you that are listening in the northern hemisphere, turning towards the south and calling upon the good medicine people of the south, place of those warm summer breezes, the place where we bring our visions of the East into manifestation. As we say, we make them real for the people to see. The place of courage and passion, place of movement and dance, place of setting boundaries, that place where our thoughts and our feelings and our words and our actions are exactly the same. We call upon all the good medicine people of the South to circle into this conversational thread between us and you, and to awaken within each one of us that bone memory where they live as well, with much gratitude. Ashe. And once again, turning quarter turn, we turn towards the west, and turning towards the place of the setting sun, to the season of autumn and the harvest, the place where we begin to harvest from the fields all the effort and the work that has gone into to the nourishment that we're now calling in. So we call upon the good medicine people of the West, to the element of water, to the element of healing and reconciliation, and to the beautiful place of transformation and change and turning inward like sap receding on the vine as it does in autumn. We turn inward as well, turning inward toward the dark night of the year. So we call upon those things that we now harvest in our lives and all the beauty and richness of the West. We call upon you and we ask that you awaken within each one of us that bone memory, that place you reside within each one of us. With much gratitude, we thank you for this. Ashe. And turning once again, we turn quarter turn to the right and face north toward the sacred mountain, toward the place of the story keepers and the elders, toward the season of putting down deep roots in self-acceptance and letting go. The place where we let go so completely that spring simply shows up because we let go enough. Also, the place where we let go into something greater than ourselves, something as an up on the mountain in the questing grounds, where we surrender to something outside of our beliefs, something that lives beyond the conceptualizations of sacred roadmaps, something called grace that we make ourselves available for. So we call upon the good medicine people of the North to reawaken within each one of us that beauty, that surrender that lives in the North, to awaken those bone memories of that medicine. We thank you, we welcome you. Ashe. Now turning skyward toward our star sisters and brothers and others, we turn towards Grandmother Moon. And we thank you, Grandmother Moon, for awakening with each one of us that clear knowing of how to move those things that we hold in shadow and move them into the light over and over and over again. And we thank you, Grandfather Sun, for teaching us how to show up every day, even when it's difficult, how to fall down 7 times and get up 8, always 8. And to our star sisters and brothers and others, we thank you for reminding us that we too are made of the same stardust and that there is no out there, that we are all out there. And that same stardust lives within the minerals, within our own bones, within each one of us. And so we thank you for reawakening that wisdom within each one of us. And we welcome you to this circle. Ashe. Now leaning down, we touch palms to the ground, knees on the ground, belly on the earth, we begin to source and feel that place of belonging, that connection to earth, a connection to the ground of our own belonging, a place of community, a place of connection and home and village. And we thank you for all those things green and growing that you offer, all the nourishment that comes from the earth. We thank Gaia and Spirit of the Earth for dreaming us into this place. And as the native people say in the lands here where I live, we are from the stars, but born of the earth. So we offer our much gratitude to this earth and all of its sustenance and all of its grounding and all of its belonging. And we thank you for the reminders that we too are made of soil and soul in such a way that goes by our own names. And we welcome this mystery, this connection, this belonging to this circle. Ashe. Now we turn our attention to the realm of the ancestors. Maybe in particular, those ancestors of yours that lived well and died well, those that are well in spirit, and those ancestors of mine, of Neil's. We call upon you to sit with us in this conversation, to help us remember the agreements we made there before coming here about who we were coming here to be and what we were coming here to offer. We welcome you to this circle with much gratitude. Ashe. And now, as we turn our attention to the spirits of the land, I want to invite Neil to speak here because we speak particularly of that land there in southern Spain and of the beauty there. Invite Neil to wrap his words around this invocation to those spirits there.
Thank you, Kedar. So you've so eloquently opened up a circle for all of us who are listening this evening or this morning. And we can invite into this circle, into our sitting rooms, into wherever we're listening to this, these spirits, these ancestors, these things, whatever we want to call them, that deeply inhabit this ancient land. A land that's had a continuous occupation for tens of thousands of years, and artifacts strewn on the mountain behind, prayer stones of 28,000 years old, cave paintings of 20,000 years old. The people who've wrestled with the same problems that we all wrestle with, the same questions, the same fear, the same existential crises, the same hopes, the same dreams. We've been and sat on this mountain and asked those deep questions and listened so deeply. And the echoes of those prayers, the echoes of those footsteps, they live still in the rocks, in the ancient oak trees, in the voice of the rivers and streams that come down the mountain in the mountain springs. And it is those spirits of the land that we invite into this circle. And maybe in that empty chair next to you, something sitting. Maybe that breeze coming through the window that pushed the curtain is someone coming to sit with you for a while. And we welcome you into this circle to stay with us for as long as you wish to stay. And I thank you for all of those things that you will bring us and bring to the people of this group. And thank you again, Kedar, for bringing us together here and bringing this little story into being.
Ashe. Thank you, Neil. So we circle here together to talk about something that is really ancient. I like to say, if you were able to turn around and walk down your own lineage behind you, if you walked far enough, you would arrive at a time and a place where what we call animism was the the perspective of human consciousness, that everything around you was alive and conscious and interactive. And you would find some form of what we would call these days an initiatory rite of passage. And you might think, well, what is this thing called Vision Quest? What is this rite of passage? It's something that's existed all over the planet. It's gone by many different names, whether it's been Vision Quest or Vision Fast or Walkabout or Hill Walking, or in the ancient Norse traditions, they had a word translated to sit out or the underworld journey. Like all these processes that guided one into nature with elders. To onto into nature to fast, to pray, to listen, and to remember. Well, I think in Africa they say all true learning is simply remembering. And so we go into these initiatory experiences to remember more of who we are and the gifts and the medicine that you each carry and that you have to offer your families, your communities, your people. So this very time-tested initiatory passage that has many names is the topic of this conversation today, and and also particularly there in southern Spain where we'll be at the end toward the end of March, hopefully with some of you. So, how would you speak to that question, Neil? What is a vision quest, a vision fast?
Well, that thing that we specifically call a vision quest, that beautifully reimagined version from the 1970s onwards is the thing that is the ceremony that we will be guiding people through, particularly yourself. And when I say reimagined, it's like you said, there are many versions of this. Some still absolutely alive in the more ancient cultures on Earth, the Aboriginal, the jungle, the African cultures. But it is in effect something that moves within a person, something easy or uneasy, that requires guidance, that requires an answer. It's a soul level itch inside you that requires scratching somehow. And in all of our cultures until really, really, really recently on the long human history, we would have moved from various points of our life, from childhood to adolescence, from adolescence to being young adults to parents, parents to grandparents, and many other things too. And we would have faced deep crises, questions. We would have fallen down and wondered how we can get back up. And at each of these points, there would be people, the elders, our peers, who'd been there before. And through ceremony, through a beautifully scripted ceremony that is derived from the very bones of the earth itself, they would guide us through these moments of change very beautifully. And they would either guide us individually or guide us as groups, often individually in some cultures. And these rites of passage are something that is deeply absent from what we call Western society. We grow up very quickly, particularly those of the younger generations who have access to all the knowledge of the world through the internet and their phones. And we grow up very quickly, but not necessarily wisely, even though we have access to more information and more knowledge than we've ever had. Because the line has been broken, that lineage has been broken back through to the guidance of rites of passage. And I know that you personally were lucky enough, or were simply meant to be with some of those people, Kedar, who did that reimagining, who say, hey, we know something's missing for ourselves personally and for our friends and our communities. And so that thing which we call a vision quest, which I personally call my deep nature quest, or a quest of tears, because that's often what it ends up, shedding tears. And the vision itself may or may not be grand. It may or may not be even present. And it may be something no more than an ant that's been giving you advice for 5 days on the mountain, whilst you wait for the cry of the wolf at the sunrise. However it manifests, this reimagined rite of passage is something that connects us to those ancestors that went before. But more particularly, when you do it in a place like this, you are connecting to those people who sat on this mountain wrestling the same questions that you're wrestling with. And in some of the places that the questers sit, you can feel they're drawn to a place, a small cave, a standing stone, in the same way as somebody was drawn to that place 10,000 years ago, 8,000 years ago, 4,000 years ago, and so on. And I know personally, when I sit in these places, you can feel and sense the prayers and the tears on the ground, in the rock. You can hear the echoes of the cries of happiness, of pain, of laughter, of sadness from those who went before. And these things almost act as portals connecting to that long line, which opens up ourselves to these incredible possibilities of what the land is telling us in this old language, this language without words, this language of feeling. When we enter more into the spirit and animal worlds. And then for those people that would join this quest, it is only for me a source of joy that they would be met by a person like you, Kedar, to act as their guide, as their interpreter, to bring these things into spoken word and into story. And it's always an honor for me to see you work, and the people who come and work with you too, the apprentices and the staff. And for me, this is my understanding of this rite of passage that we call a vision quest. I think you may be muted, Kedar, the
Yep.
sound.
Thanks. Your words take me down a conversational thread in my own mind around this whole process. And I'm reminded that, all of what we might think of as the major spiritual traditions on the planet, they all actually began with somebody going into the wilderness and fasting, in prayer, and in solitude, and then returning. And once returning, they began their teachings, their medicine offerings, that culminated into all of the great spiritual traditions on the planet. In a much smaller way, our own ancestors at some point would have done this in an individual or within their village for their own personal experience. So the stages of the process, we would say the stages are like calling, where one begins to get the call to turn their attention towards such an experience. And it happens in many forms. I think it happens for everyone. And the calling can be in the form of an inspiration, or when it turns one's head towards such an experience. or it could actually be a disaster. Something happens in one's life that utterly just uh, stops the life that they've been living, the way they've been living it, and they're forced to abruptly look at uh, the direction they're moving. That's another form of a calling, and everything along that continuum. Once you respond to the call, once you start turning your attention toward that which is calling you, I say these initiatory callings are they're unconcerned with the comforts of a life you have outgrown. Uh, that's not their focus. Is how to make you more comfortable emotionally, financially. Their focus is to align you with yourself and with spirit and your soul, which could be a bumpy realignment, maybe easy, but depends on how far we've gotten off course. But responding to the call, we turn our attention towards the ceremony or towards what we think of as a rite of passage or something of a different life. And the way I like to say, when you turn your attention toward the ceremony turns its attention towards you. And you now align yourself with a lineage of many ancestors that have walked this path before you. And you enter what's called the severance phase. And the severance phase, by its very nature, as you approach the ceremony, means that things are going to begin to fall away. Like you can't simply carry the old version of yourself up on the mountain and come off the mountain in the same condition you were in before you went up there. So you enter this severance phase where old beliefs, old behaviors, old ideologies, old stories you have about yourself that you tell yourself, or stories you tell yourself about other people, they begin to fade away in this severance phase as you approach the mountain and in your preparation ceremonies. And then you arrive, in this case, at Neil's Land, at the finca there, at the base of the mountain. The mountain that Neil has come to call there's a place, the questing grounds on the mountain, Neil likes to call the Valley of the Ancestors. So we arrive at Neil's place and we begin to deepen into the ceremonial preparation, into the severance phase, into this thing called in questing and fasting, modern day questing and fasting culture is often called death lodge work. So we enter into this death lodge preparation. And why is it called a death lodge? Well, rites of passage runs opposite the flow of life. And we think of life beginning with birth and ending at death generally. And then initiation begins with a death and ends with a birth, right? It runs opposite. So Death Lodge is a place where we meet in ceremony and begin to assist all of the questers in reconciling that which is no longer useful for them to keep carrying. Old traumas, old beliefs, I'd say many old things that need to be put down here at the base of the mountain before you go up there. And so we do that ceremonial work. We do it through medicine wheel, spiritual technology, as I call it. We do it through prayer lodge or sweat lodge ceremony. And we do it within community and within village rituals, this preparation. And then comes the morning where we go up on the mountain and we enter the threshold phase. And this is what most people think a rite of passage is this 4 days and 4 nights. And always Neil and I talk and laugh, say that's the easy part. Spending 4 days and nights on the mountain with nothing but nature and sunrise and sunset to paint your palette with is those are that's the easiest part, but it's the most terrifying for people. So we enter the threshold phase. We go up on the mountain. You've been prepared both ritually and with wilderness safety knowledge. And we do a threshold ceremony at sunrise and send you out to your spot that you have pre-selected, so we know where everybody is. And then for 4 days and nights, you're communing with nature and the spirits out there. On that fifth morning, you return. It is a water fast, so you have plenty of water to drink. And on the fifth morning, you return to your village with stories of your encounters and what happened, both internally and externally. And then we return to base camp at meals at the finca and celebrate with a meal. And then we begun to unfold these stories. We sit in what's called the Council of Elders, and we begin to listen to each of the questers' stories and mirror back to you what we hear in your story. What is the deep medicine that we hear that you have, that you carry, that's being activated in this experience? And so the elders mirror back to you what it is that we hear in your story about the genius, the beauty, the gifts that you carry. And then we unfold the stories, and then we move into more of the phase of the quest we call the integration and celebration, and then eventually preparing you for what's called the giveaway. And that's when you return to your other village, your greater village back home, to offer your giveaway, whatever that happens to be. So that's the in a nutshell the choreography of the 12 days that we spend together. As I say, there's 5 days of preparation before you even go in the mountain, and then the days that come after returning from the mountain for integration. So it's a really full experience. Anything you'd like to add to the whole choreography, Neil?
That's the whole thing, isn't it? And of that part of the quest, the physical part, the part you referred to, the difficulty will often start emotionally and spiritually when you return after the giveaway to your community, to your ecology, to your families, having almost always, in fact, always undergone some element of profound change. And I see it every time that the people, particularly when you look into their eyes, that have become truly wild and soft and alive, and their soul is just bubbling away after the experience, and many deep realizations, many sheddings of things that have been carried for so long. And you can see that the people are light. Those things have gone from them. And particularly on the first return after the fast to the base camp, when people come a little thinner, but so much filled inside with spirit and nature, and smelling of pines and squirrels, and then integrating that, as you said, through various ceremonies and stories, and then that return, that difficult moment of having undergone profound change, but returning to a place that hasn't undergone that change. You go yourself changed and almost expect people or things to have changed on your return, but they haven't. And that's the challenge. And I think that's that lovely, wise old medicine story you tell of the sacred deer meat really comes into its own at that point when people listen, of how to share their medicine, how to look after their own medicine from the thing that they've taken, and how that those things that we were meant to offer in this time here, how they can really come into their own power and being as a result of the quest. And again, very often do as a result of this. That's what I would say.
Thank you, Neil. It's very and invites me right in. I'm there with you on the mountain with the people, and
Yeah.
we're all smelling of fire and sweat and prayers.
Yes. Yes.
Feel wild and alive.
Mm.
So I wanted to share a few pictures from from our times there to give you a visual sense of some of the experiences there and some of the land there that we've been speaking of. And I'm going to center this up here. I think you can see that, can't you, Neil?
Yes, I can. Yeah.
So that's this 28,000-year-old prayer stone that's been archaeologically time dated. Um, Places such as this was where the water came out, like the village down the mountain that was formed below this prayer stone. That places of where water emerges from the land were sacred places for eternity to people. As we say, water is life. And so this prayer stone marked the place on the mountain where the mountain offered up this sustenance for life, this prayer stone. Let's see if I can move these. Whoops. Move these pictures forward. Okay, there we go. Another view of it. And as I go along, since you know this land intimately well, anything you'd like to say as I move through these, Neil?
Well, yeah, this stone, which I found on my feet were taken there shortly after I arrived, and as you walk towards it, it speaks to you. It speaks to being placed there, and it was afterwards when I asked people, "Is this stone special?" that I learnt its story. And if we can imagine a line that comes up through that stone, goes up the hill and down the hill, a straight line, as Kedar said, just at its foot, a beautiful mountain spring comes. You go a little bit higher to the right of that image and up the hill, and there is a Bronze Age tomb. And if you go down the hill on an exact straight line, is the position of the modern parish church of Facinas. And I say modern, but it's still over 1,000 years old. And unquestionably, that would have probably been put on a pre-existing site of worship, because right next to the church that comes every single moment of every day is another spring, another water coming out of the mountain. So there's a line of these sites, these ancient sites that go up the mountain, connecting prayers over thousands of generations. That
This
is the
being
tomb.
that is the ancient dolmen or tomb. This would have been a place of where the ancestors or the dead were buried, were worshipped, were honored. Remember that night around the fire.
Yeah.
I think that was a night of sharing stories, I believe.
Yes.
There's one of our crews. I think that is, I don't know if that's before we went up on the mountain or after we just came down.
That
Uh,
one, I think, is just after you came down, because that's in the place we greet the people, isn't it? Where
that's
we
right.
make the circle.
I was thinking it was after because they all have these smiling faces. They don't have that kind of anticipatory, worried look about
Yes. Yeah. Mm.
And there's a little view of the finca there at Neal's where we have our primary base camp until we go up on the mountain. There's another crew. Um, that one actually
This
made,
is the before shot.
this is the before picture. I
That's the before picture.
think same group maybe.
It's the same group, and but as you said, they more pensive. You can see it
Yeah.
so clearly in the faces, far
Hmm.
more pensive, and what's going to happen.
Hmm. Beautiful blooms there at base camp back at the finca.
Mm,
Yeah, spring is coming alive there, the time of year that we're there. Things are
it
colors are returning and its beauty.
it really is, and I can also see in the background the out of focus blue blob is my giant wheelbarrow. So we must have been bringing in wood for the sweat lodge fire, and I can see somebody just outside the lodge, maybe you, Kedar, beginning to prepare that.
It does have that uh, look to it in the background.
Mm.
And there's one of our story circles. It's like a warm day. I think that was the day that was right before we took the group. Um, Part of this question and experiences we offer a bit of what I call cultural immersion. So I
Mm.
have a day planted into the experience at the end, where we either, if it's warm enough, we actually go down to the coast. We're not very just a few minutes from the beach. And I think even with this
Mm.
group, we went down there and went swimming the day after this.
Yes,
Looks like the giveaway ceremony.
it was indeed.
It's a shot looks like from behind the sweat lodge, looking out onto the finca in our base camp grounds.
Yes. And that would have been after the sweat lodge, that I do believe.
Mhm.
You can see where we've all been sitting.
And this looks like another Vision Quest ceremony, the giveaway ceremony, because let's imagine the giveaway blanket there,
Yes.
which is another ceremony that we have.
Mm.
See
Good
if there
memory.
are other, share a few more picture. Whoops. Let's see. Little broader pictures of those up on the mountain. So these are up on the questing grounds. This picture, um, often a place.
Mm.
I think that's the place where we do our ceremonial invocation at on the mountain. And there's more views of the questing grounds. And
Mm.
that's from the ridge. You can barely see across the water there. There's a faint dark line. That would be the coast of Africa or Morocco specifically.
Mm.
So the questing grounds sit right there on the Gibraltar Strait, um, above the water. And so this is one actually probably from one of the questing spots, looking out over the strait into Africa. A little hazy that day. Other days and at night you can see more clearly across the water.
Mm.
There's another shot. This looks like from our questing grounds base camp up on the mountain where the staff hang out and when the questers
Mhm.
are on the hill. Sunrise. And then back at the finca. Oh, there we are.
Yes.
So those are just a few pictures we wanted to share with you about some of past experiences. um, and so our quest this year is toward the end of March. I'm trying to remember the exact dates. Well, we'll say if you want to learn more about this particular offering, you could go to the website www.ritesofpassagecouncil.org. Rites is spelled Rites of Passage, Passage, Council, Council.org. And you'll, once you're there, if you click on programs and click on Vision Quest and just scroll down to where you see the Spain Vision Quest, you'll see all the details for this experience, along with another tab that shows the location. So you can click on the location button. It'll actually take you to um, Neil's website, um, and even offer more pictures of from his land. And let's see, let me pull up the dates here. You know, it's right around the spring equinox. We always seem to be there right around spring equinox. It'll be it'll be marked on the website, but I can give you the looks like I think the 21st, yeah, 21st to the 3rd, 21st of March to April 3rd is the questing time. That includes the arrival day and the departure day. But again, more details on the website if you're interested in learning more about it. You can also email myself if you have questions, or email Neil. Both you'll find emails on the website as well if you wish to reach out to us individually and ask more questions. Anything else in closing, Neil, that you would like to speak about?
I think for this particular conversation about this particular quest, that covers most things. You know, we really warmly invite anybody who's interested to talk with us about what they feel, what they fear, and if they wish to join us. I can only say it will be always a magnificent, life-changing, enriching experience.
So I'd like to end with a poem for you. And the name of the poem is called Follow Your Name. And this poem is based on the understanding that the names we carry, and certainly much more from an indigenous perspective, the name that you carry should be one that carries you into a life of your own genius and your own beauty and in your own gifts that you have to offer. So this is a poem that I wrote several years back, inspired by a couple of indigenous youth that I were working with at the time, one from South Africa and one from the Seminole Cherokee culture. A young man, a young woman were the inspiration behind this particular poem. So it's called Follow Your Name. Pay attention, pay attention. Be careful not to distract yourself from yourself by focusing on the obstacles in your life. Focus on the delivery of your medicine, not on the stories in your head where you recount your limitations and loss. Do not indulge in such self-importance as a way to avoid taking responsibility for your medicine and the gift of healing that you came here to offer. You are the heroes and the heroines of your own story. If you are not initiated into the bone memory, into the mythology of your own life, you will likely be living an existence that is not entirely your own. And the life you know you must live is the one standing just a few paces in front of you, looking back over its shoulder with eyes wide, waiting for you to remember. Apprentice yourself and walk to the horizon of your own dreams, the place where you live in the absence of those old stories, the place where the sharp edges of this unfolding moment demands your full attention. Where are you? I am here, you reply. Who are you? I am this moment, you say. Pay attention, pay attention. Stay humble and remain focused. Do not move through your life in such a way as to allow another to give you a name you have no belonging to. Pay attention, pay attention. Stay humble and remain focused. Do not move through your life in such a way that you allow another to give you a name you have no belonging to. So with that, we'll close. And we hope to be sitting with some of you around the fire there in southern Spain at Neil's place in March. And we wish you all many winter solstice blessings. Any words of farewell, Neil, that you'd like to offer?
Just to thank those spirits of the land who joined us. And if they wish, they can leave us now and rejoin when they want. And as you said, Kedar, deep solstice blessings to all of you who've taken the time to listen to this little conversation today. Thank you.
So, for much gratitude for your lives and for our lives and the lives of our teachers and their teachers before them, we bid you farewell. Go well, everyone.